Okay. We can go ahead and get started since we have a quorum. Actually, we have one more than a quorum. We have 5 members, so it's a cold night out there, and we'll get started. And I'll call this meeting to order. I'd like to first of all to introduce the staff. The lady sitting closest to me is Joella Thomas, and next to her is Julia Crane, Planning Director. Beth Walsh is sitting down there at the computer, keeping track of all that we do. The Zoning Board of Adjustment members that are here tonight, on my far right is Brian Higgins. Next to Brian is Stephen Coe. On my far left is Garrett Craig. Next to Garrett is John Reese. My name is Dave Wing, and I will be chairing the meeting tonight. So the first thing that we need to concern ourselves with are the minutes of the meeting, our last meeting of December the 14th, 2023. Has everybody had an opportunity to review those minutes? Does anybody care to make a motion for their approval?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the minutes from the December 14th, 2023 meeting.
Thank you, Garrett. Does anybody care?
I'll second
Brian?
that.
It's been moved by Garrett Craig to approve the minutes and seconded by Brian Higgins. Everybody in favor of approving the minutes indicate by saying aye. Aye. The minutes are approved by voice vote. First of all, we had a conditional use permit 23-3. We're going to vote on that tonight, but that's been vacated and scheduled for our next meeting, which will be February the 15th of 2024. So, and then with regard to variance application 2314, the applicant has also requested that be continued, and that has been done. So the first matter that we have to concern ourselves with tonight is variance application 2315, application by Kevin Swanson. Is Mr. Swanson or a representative present? Mr. Swanson is present. Mr. Swanson, we're first of all going to hear a report by the planning staff. And if you can see that, you can follow along. Then we'll ask for you to come up and discuss it. So thank you. Or you can come up right now if you want, but you can't say anything till they're done. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, this is on variance application 2316 at 2020 Monroe Street. The proposal is a request to build a 12 by 20 foot or 240 square foot lean-to carport off an existing detached garage, varying from the 35% maximum lot coverage of section 1710-100 of the Butte-Silver Municipal Code, and increasing the lot coverage to 44%, exceeding lot coverage by 14%. Butte-Silver Municipal Code section 175460 grants powers to the Board of the Adjustment to grant variances in instances where all review criteria are met. We will evaluate based on 3 review criteria per BSB Municipal Code 175460 and reviewed in the staff report and presentation. The zoning at this particular location is in an R1 or single-family residential zone. This is an aerial photograph showing Monroe Street just south of the intersection of Monroe and Cobbin, right here, and then North Drive to the south. Here's a proposal of the applicant's proposed carport. As you can see, the plan view provides for the location of the house and then appurtenances within the yard space on the lot and the location of the proposed carport. The views from the property looking to the east and to the west. And then the view from the alley looking northward and a view from the alley looking west. And the proposed carport would be off of one of the single garage pieces, just right here, this garage here. So it would be from this roof line interior to the lot. Evaluation criteria will not be contrary to the public interest. One attached accessory structure, which includes private garages, are permitted in the R1 zoning district, provided they meet all applicable zoning requirements. This property currently accommodates 2 detached accessory structures. Lot coverage in the R1 is maximum of 35% coverage. The proposed 44% lot coverage would exceed the permitted lot coverage in the R1 zone. The current lot coverage at the property is 39%, exceeding the maximum of 35%. The subject property and surrounding neighborhood are characterized by low-density, single-family residential development with only one attached or detached garage. None of the surrounding properties exceed the maximum lot coverage. Proposal could alter the character of the neighborhood as protected by the zoning ordinance and may pose nuisance to surrounding properties by contributing to congestion within the parcel and to nonconformity in the neighborhood. There appear to be no conditions unique to the property which would make complying with the requirements of the zone unfairly difficult. The property is a non-conforming 5,400 square foot parcel, which is slightly smaller than the 6,000 square foot minimum in the district. The non-conforming size of the lot could pose a slight hardship, preventing placement of additional structures while meeting setback and lot coverage requirement. The lot size has not prevented the property owner the privilege of developing permitted uses in the R1 zone. The property currently accommodates 2 detached garages, which do not conform to the existing setback requirements. The R1 zone intends to allow property owners to have a single-family home and an accessory structure. This could include, but is not limited to, a shed, a detached garage, or an attached garage. Only one detached private garage is permitted per dwelling unit, though there is no limit to the square footage of such structures. Additionally, there is a 35% lot coverage maximum in the R1 zone. With the existing house and garage, the lot is currently at 39% of coverage, exceeding the allowed 35% in the R1 zone. Spirit of the ordinance observed. The proposed variance would not maintain the spirit of the zoning ordinance. The property is a legal non-conforming lot with 2 existing appurtenant structures. While the proposed 240 square foot carport would not introduce detrimental visual impacts to the surrounding properties, the intent of the zoning ordinance is to not encourage the survival of non-conforming lots. According to Butte-Silver Municipal Code 1748, nonconforming uses states that within the zones established by this title, or amendments that may later be adopted, there exist lot structures, uses of land, and structures and characteristics of use which were lawful before the ordinance codified in this title was passed or amended, but which would be prohibited, regulated, or restricted under the terms of this title or future amendment. It is the intent of this title to permit these nonconformities to continue until they are removed, but not to encourage their survival. It's further the intent of this title that nonconformities shall not be enlarged upon, expanded, or extended, nor be used as grounds for adding other structures or uses prohibited elsewhere in the same zone. Substantial justice. Would literal interpretation of the provisions of this chapter deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other tracts in the same district? No. In this case, adhering to lot coverage requirements does not limit reasonable use of the property and would not deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by others in the R1 zone. Would approving the variance request grant the applicants any special privilege that is denied by this chapter to other land in the same zoning district? Although the property is slightly smaller than a standard lot, no unique property conditions exist which make compliance with the regulations unfairly difficult. Lot coverage maximums are enforced continually during concurrent building permit and zoning review processes. Similar requests from many applicants have been denied in the past, and those applicants have adjusted their plans to meet zoning requirements. Therefore, granting this variance would be offering special privilege to one property owner, which is denied to others in the district. Of the 3 criteria, 0 are met. The recommendation by staff is to deny the variance application based on written findings of fact as described in the staff report. The alternatives posed to the board are approve the application based on findings of compliance with the criteria and the option to add conditions of approval, or continue public hearings on the application with specific direction to staff or the applicant to supply additional information to address specific items.
Thank you, Julia. Sir, would you care to add anything to the staff report or present your case in support of your application?
So I didn't really know anything about the coverage rule at all when I started looking at this project, and I didn't even know what my lot coverage was. I just park my snowmobiles back there, and in the winter I can't get them out because my gate freezes shut. So I was just trying to think of a way to solve that problem. And my best thought was to build a cover so my gate doesn't freeze shut. So I, don't really keep track of laws and rules when it comes to these things. I'm just trying to live in my home. So in terms of like tearing down my deck so I meet zoning laws and rules, doesn't really seem to, that didn't sit well with me. So I didn't really have a good way to meet the requirements of the zoning, what the requirements, so I wasn't quite sure on how to deal with this. I ordered the carport, I was ready to build it, and I talked to a friend who's a contractor, and he said you should probably get a building permit for that. So then I went up and submitted everything, and then that's when I found out about the 30% rule.
Okay.
So it's kind of frustrating. I can't use my property the way I want to use it.
And I didn't quite catch it. Did you want to do this because of your snow machine?
Correct.
Okay. To be able to,
Well, every time I try to get my snowmobiles out during the winter, my gate freezes shut, so I have to go out there with a sledgehammer or, spud bar and try to
okay.
bust the ice around my gate so I can open it up.
So that's your immediate reason for requesting this approval?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Do any board members have any questions of the applicant? Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yep, thank you.
I will now ask if there's anybody present that would care to speak in support of this application. I'm not hearing anybody, so I'll ask if there's anybody present that would care to speak against this application. Again, I'm not hearing anybody, so I'll close the public portion of the meeting and open it for board discussion. Any board members have any thoughts with regard to this application? Stephen?
I don't have a lot to say. I think the staff report speaks for itself.
Okay. Garrett, did you?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would agree with the staff report. I don't see any hardships or any reason to approve this. So I would agree with the staff report to deny the variance request.
Okay, thank you. Brian or John, do you have anything you want to say with regard to this matter? No? Okay. So does anybody care to make a motion with regard to this particular application?
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to deny variance 23-000016.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody care to second that motion?
I'll second it.
It's been moved by Garrett Craig and seconded by Stephen Coe to deny the application. We can now vote with regard to this matter. Thank you. Thanks, Garrett. There are 4 votes for the motion and 1 vote against the motion, meaning that 4 of the board members are supported denying the application, and one of the board members would support it. But since it's 4-1, the application has been denied. Sir, if you disagree with our decision tonight, you have the Pardon? I'm sorry, sir. If you want to say something, you'll probably have to come up here.
Lots in this town where I drive around town that are much, like they are way beyond the 30% coverage. So that small carport behind my house, when I own the house behind that and nobody's going to see it but me, I just don't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since I pay taxes and I've lived there for several years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's my property that I own. It's in
Okay.
But I can't do what I want with my property. That's a bit hard for
Okay.
me to stomach.
Well, if you disagree
I mean,
with that,
I spend a lot of money to live there.
Okay.
I mean, I hope,
all right.
so it's kind of disheartening that I can't build a covered area to store my things.
Okay. So your options, the first option that you have, if you'll let me finish, the first option you have, you can appeal our decision to district court by filing a petition within 30 days, with the first day being tomorrow.
Okay.
Second, you can wait, and you can, I think you have 6 months, if I remember right, to come back before us with perhaps a different plan, one that you've worked out together with the planning staff, and maybe get neighborhood support, talk to your neighbors, get them to come up and support your position, and other people that might support your position. But for tonight, we have denied the application based on the staff report. So you can, one, appeal our decision. Second, you can wait 6 months and come back with a different proposal. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The next matter before us tonight is variance application 2315. No, excuse me, I'm sorry. 2317, 452 Vienna. That application is by Shelley and Mike Whitty. And are they present tonight? Ma'am? Yes. As before, you can come up and watch the proceedings, or you can stay there and come up later. We'll first listen to the staff report.
Mr. Chairman, this is variance application 2317 at 452 Vienna Street. The proposal is a request to vary from the maximum permitted height of a detached accessory structure in the R4 manufactured home zone per section 171040 of the Butte-Silver Municipal Code. The applicants are proposing to construct a 17-foot gable roof garage to the west of their existing residence, varying from the maximum allowed height of 16 feet for a gable roof, 14 feet for a gambrel roof, and 13 feet for a flat roof. Staff findings. Butte-Silver Municipal Code Section 175460, addressing powers, grants powers to the Board of Adjustment to grant variances in instances where all review criteria are met. 3 review criteria are reviewed and will be presented in this staff presentation. This is a photo of the zoning for this particular parcel located at Vienna Street. It is in an R4 zone primarily, but the parcel is also within the R1S zone and is adjacent to a M2 or a light industrial or a heavy industrial zone and an open space developable zone. Here is an aerial photograph of the property and a site plan which proposes a 60-foot by 40-foot garage with a hip roof. Here we have photographs of the west view looking west. That's the photograph on the right-hand side, and then the east view looking southeast on the left-hand side. And looking north from the property and then south from the property. And this is the proposed garage location. A variance must not be contrary to the public interest. The zoning ordinance safeguards public interest by preventing building congestion, creating uniformity within different zoning districts, and preventing uses of land that may be incompatible with or have a negative impact on surrounding property owners. The R4 zone is intended to establish a zone where single-family homes are located while allowing manufactured homes to be placed without changing character of the neighborhood. In the R4 zoning district, garages are permitted uses, whether attached or detached, provided they meet all applicable zoning requirements. This height limit is designed to ensure uniformity of development and appearances in the R4 neighborhoods while limiting the size of non-residential structures in neighborhoods intended for single-family residences primarily. The subject property and surrounding neighborhood is characterized by low-density single-family and manufactured residential development. Most nearby properties are large parcels containing attached or detached garages and is adjacent to zones with less restrictive height requirements. The proposal for a 1-foot increase of the maximum height would constitute a 1% exceedance of the maximum height allowed and is unlikely to disrupt the character of the neighborhood. A literal enforcement of the zoning ordinance must result in unnecessary hardship owing to conditions unique to the property. The property in question does not have any unique geological or topographical conditions that would result in an unnecessary hardship. However, the property is a 2.81 acre parcel currently dually zoned R4 and R1S. The parcel is also adjacent to the R1S zone to the south and east, and M2 zone is located to the southeast and open space developable to the northeast. The R1S, M2, and OSD have less restrictive height requirements than the R4 zone. The applicant states their facts of hardship are, our previous problem had been not being able to fit all projects and objects under the regular door height. We look into the future of not having this continuous problem. We feel that the extra height will not block any neighbor property views. The size of the lot and dual zoning of the property, as well as the surrounding area having less restrictive height requirements, do present a hardship for the applicant. For example, if the structure were placed on the southeast corner of the property, a 17-foot height garage would be permitted. The spirit of the zoning ordinance must be observed and substantial justice done. Literal interpretation of the code would not deprive the applicants of rights commonly enjoyed by other tracts in the same district. In this case, adhering to the height regulations does not limit reasonable use of the property and would not prevent the applicant from constructing a detached garage. However, the parcel has 2 zoning designations. The applicant would be allowed to construct a 17-foot garage if the garage were located in a portion of the parcel zoned R1S. The proposal to vary from the 16-foot maximum height would maintain the spirit of the zoning ordinance, as the applicant is requesting a 1% exceedance of maximum height of the R4 zone and likely would not detract from the character of the neighborhood. The parcel is 2.81 acres in size, with most surrounding properties exceeding the standard lot size required for the R4 zone. Construction of a 17-foot height garage on a parcel of this size with properties directly to the south allowed construction of accessory structures up to 35 feet in height is not offering special privileges to one property owner over another. Conclusions and recommendations. Of the criteria, 3 of 3 have been met. The recommendation is to approve the variance application based on written findings of fact as described in the staff report. The Zoning Board of Adjustment has alternatives available to them to deny the application based on findings of compliance with the criteria, or continue public hearings on the application with specific direction to staff or the applicant to supply additional information or to address other specific items.
Thank you. Ma'am, would you care to add anything to the staff report or present any additional information that we might consider?
I think all of the information was in there, and my comment that I probably would have said was in there, so I don't have anything else to say.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do any board members have any questions of the applicant? Ma'am, if you just stay here for a second, I just want to check and see if
Okay.
any of the other board members might have any questions. None? None. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody present that would care to speak in support of this application? Is there anybody present that would care to speak against the application? Hearing nobody, I will close the public portion of the meeting and open it for board discussion. So, any board members have any comments?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I know similar variances regarding garage height have been before us before. I think, you know, we've largely denied them. I do think this one's different, just due to the fact of the dual zoning on the parcel. I think that's a hardship. I think it's very well justified. So I think I would make the recommendation to approve this variance
Okay,
based on that.
I agree with your comments. Any other board members have any thoughts? Mr. Higgins?
Mr. Chair, I agree. Meeting all three criteria, being duly zoned, I'm in favor of it also.
Okay, thank you. Would anybody care to make a motion with regard to this application?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve variance application 23-17.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second it, Chairman.
It's been moved by Mr. Higgins and seconded by Mr. Craig that we approve the application. We can all now vote. All 5 votes are in support of the motion, which means that your application has been approved, and you will be receiving a letter from the planning staff to that effect. So good luck with your project, ma'am. Thank you. The next matter before us is special use permit 23-16 involving 832 Caledonia, a short-term rental. And that application is by Allison Russo. That's your wife? She tending the baby? Understood, that's fine. You can speak for her or take over the babysitting duties, whichever you prefer. But
I would prefer that.
well, we first of all have to listen to a staff report, and then you can make your comments.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a special use 23-16 for 832 Caledonia Street. The applicants are Allison and Matthew Russo, and the proposal is to locate a short-term or vacation rental in an existing home. I just lost my train of thought, sorry. Per section 1738-180, special uses allowed in Butte-Silver Municipal Code. The applicants are requesting to rent a 2-bedroom, 1-bath home for overnight stays and short-term rentals through online hosting programs. Here's an aerial photograph of the particular residence. The zoning district is an R2 or 2-family residence, and just directly to the north is open space. The property in question is located within the Uptown neighborhood place type in the comprehensive plan. The place type represents a traditional urban neighborhood with predominance of single-family attached and detached residential units and limited neighborhood commercial. The Uptown neighborhoods are located within the Butte Historical District and are defined by the character and quality of architecture found at the turn of the century. And the neighborhood is right here in the yellow. Some views. Here's a front view and the rear view of the property. Proposed vehicular access, circulation, and parking. There is some access to and from the property from Caledonia Street here in the front that would allow for about 2 parking spaces. And then in the rear, they have a single car garage as well as a parking space just adjacent to it. Here's a view looking east from the property and a view looking west. And again, some on-street parking here in front of the property. Staff findings. Lodging provided by homeowners for compensation is recognized as special use allowed in any residential zoning district, provided that the prescribed use is in harmony with the other uses permitted in the zone and not found to be contrary to public interest. The process provides for review of physical conditions which exist at the location, the conduct and operation of the proposed use, and whether the combination of these factors will be compatible with the proposed site and surrounding area. To provide the board with information about the proposed use, the applicant and planning staff have responded to the established 20 questions outlined here. Again, some visuals. The front, here's one looking east and to the rear, just showing that there are stairs going into the property from both the front and rear locations. Location and character of the property and surrounding buildings. This property is on a 3,000 square foot lot in an R2 or two-family residence zone. The resident has a footprint of 698 square feet. The property resides in an area containing mostly single-family residents, and just to the west is a commercial property. Most lots in this area are 3,000 square feet in size. Land use changes since inception of zoning. There have been no significant land use changes in the immediate area since the original adoption of zoning ordinance in 1978. Proposed vegetation, topography, and natural drainage. Planning staff does not foresee this proposed use as having any impact on drainage and stormwater runoff from the site, as no additional impervious area is being planned. Vehicle access, circulation, parking, and provisions for handicapped persons. Vehicle access to and from the property is acceptable for the proposed use. There is enough room for two parking spaces along the street at the front of the residence, and there's a single car garage and one additional parking space accessible through the alley. Handicap access may be a concern, as both the curb and steps to the access the property may pose an accessibility challenge. Staff does believe that the applicant should state this in the listing for the rental. Proposed pedestrian circulation, including provisions for handicapped persons. The property is located on a street with a steep slope. There are two potential access points to the property, one through the front door and another through the rear. Accessing the property from the front would require navigating from the street across and curb onto the elevated sidewalk. Staff is unsure of the accessibility through the rear of the property. Due to the potential challenges to access the property, handicap access is a concern, and there are no ADA accessible ramps for the street parking area to the sidewalk or for the main entry stairs. The applicant should state this in their listings for the rental. Proposed signs and lighting. The applicants may have one sign as a directional or informational sign no larger than 5 square feet in area to direct guests to the designated parking area. The applicant states that they do not intend to have any signage, but any signage beyond that noted above or provisions of additional signage is subject to review and approval. The existing lighting is typical of a residential neighborhood. The applicant has stated there will be no change to the current lighting at the property. Any potential nuisances? Traffic. Proposed occupancy is consistent with the size of a typical family, and we expect no impact. Parking. There is adequate on and off-street parking available to accommodate the unit. Trespass. Clearly address property to prevent unintentional access to neighboring properties. And noise. Potential for noise due to lack of concern for neighbors. Security monitoring is in place. Recommend prohibiting parties to minimize potential for noise. Public safety and health. The applicants will be required to meet all Butte-Silver Bow Health Department regulations related to providing rooms for rent. Verification of approval from the Health Department will be required prior to final approval of the business license. The applicants will be required to adhere to all regulations regarding the occupancy levels of the building as determined by Butte-Silver Bow building official and the fire marshal. Public utilities, including sanitary sewer and potable water, are available and serve this property. Situations that prevent utilization of the property for full range of use in this district. There appear to be no compelling reasons why the property could not continue to be utilized for residential purposes. The use or zone classification would enhance and promote comprehensive development of the neighborhood and community. The established character of the existing residential neighborhood would not appear to be impacted by this proposal. There would be no change to the aesthetics of the surrounding properties nor to the surrounding landscape should this proposed use be approved. Use or classification conforms to the objectives of the comprehensive plan and purpose of this ordinance. The place type designation for this property is the Uptown neighborhood. This place type represents a traditional urban neighborhood with single-family homes and limited commercial. The gridded streets pattern afford vehicle and pedestrian connectivity. Occupancy of an existing residence conforms to the intent of the comprehensive plan and ordinance. The use will promote or not impede the conservation of resources and energy and the conservation policy of BSB. The proposed use would not substantially impede the conservation of resources and energy within Butte-Silver Bow. The use meets the overall density, yard height, and other requirements of the zone. The applicant's property does not conform with the setback and lot size or lot coverage requirements of the R2 zone. The building is considered a legal non-conforming structure. Any expansion of the building footprint shall be required to meet the development standards of the zone. The use or classification will not adversely affect nearby properties or their residents. Anytime a commercial business encroaches into a residential neighborhood, there is a potential for the use to adversely impact the surrounding property owners. In this case, when considering the low-impact commercial nature of the business and the owners limiting the number of occupants, staff find that it would have a minimal impact on adjacent properties and property owners. Conformity of the proposed use with the neighborhood plan. There is no known neighborhood plan for this area of Butte-Silver Bow. Compatibility of proposed projects with the existing adjacent buildings, structures, neighborhood, topography, etc. Although the use of the home is proposed to be changed, the exterior of the building will remain unaltered. Therefore, the house will remain compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. This is the list of conditions that we had handed out and was also in the staff report. The applicants shall be required to secure a state of Montana public accommodation license through Butte-Silver Bow. Any remodeling of the existing residence performed to accommodate the proposed business will be required to meet all applicable building codes and health code requirements, as required by Butte-Silver Bow Building Code Department and Butte-Silver Bow Health Department, respectively. All necessary approvals must be granted prior to the applicants receiving final business license approval. The property address must be visible, including past dark entrances must be clearly identified. The applicant shall be limited to the occupancy level as determined by Butte-Silver Bow Building Department and Butte-Silver Bow Fire Marshal. The applicants will be limited specifically to the business as stated and approved. Any future business expansion, changes in the business, or building expansion will require further review by the Zoning Board of Adjustments. And the applicant will be required to acquire a Butte-Silver Bow business license for short-term rentals. Conclusion: based on the above information, staff's analysis of the review criteria and any public opinion as it relates to the criteria, the board must determine if the applicant has presented evidence to the satisfaction of the board that said undue detriment will not result from the granting of a special use permit for short-term rental. Section 1738-160, special or conditional use permit decision on board, requires staff to refer the application to the board within 15 days of receipt of the application and all requested information. The board shall within 60 days deny the application and give reason for the denial in writing, or approve the application and the zoning official shall issue a zoning compliance permit with conditions specified. Thank you.
Thank you, Joella. Do any board members have any questions of the staff with regard to this application? Okay. Thank you, sir. Could you provide any further information?
The report is fantastic. And, you know, I think of the few concerns that were brought up in there, we will absolutely address them, mentioning access, non-ADA compliant access in the listing, and making sure that our guests do not throw parties. That's not something we want, and we know we've developed a solid relationship with our neighbors, and we would absolutely love to maintain that. I don't foresee anything happening that would.
Okay. Well, thank you. Do any board members have any questions of the applicant? Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anybody present that would care to speak in support of this application? I'm not hearing anybody, so I'll ask if there's anybody present that would care to speak against the application. Again, I'm not hearing anybody, and I'll open it up for board discussion. And bear in mind that we have up to 60 days to render our decision, but very often we decide the night of the hearing. So, any board comments with regard to this?
Mr. Chairman, excuse me. I believe it meets all the requirements, and we've approved several of these before. And I think this is, you know, as good as any of the other ones that we've approved. So I would be in favor of it.
Okay. And you think that we should probably decide it tonight?
I do. I think that we should take the vote tonight.
Okay. All right. Did you want, anybody else care to speak with regard to this application?
I'll just say I agree with Mr. Reese that
Okay.
voting tonight, and it looks pretty standard.
Yes, it does. Would anybody care to make a motion with regard to this?
I move that we approve this application.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the application, and we can now vote.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
could I ask if that motion was with the conditions of approval? As
Yes, I'm
outlined.
glad you did that. Thank you. Yeah, subject to the conditions of approval, which the applicant has indicated that he has. Thank you, Steve. Thanks, John. Thank you, Garrett. All 5 votes are for the motion, which means that your application has been approved, and you will be receiving a letter from the planning staff to that effect. So you can go give your wife and child the news. You got it. Pardon?
The next one's also.
Okay. Are you driving back to Helena tonight? Okay, good. Yeah, seems safer. Okay. The next matter on our agenda is special use permit 23-17 with regard to 411 Quartz, another short-term rental. And again, the applicants are Allison Russo. Her husband is ably fulfilling the capacity as the applicant. So you can come up again like you did before, and we'll talk about this.
Thank you, sir.
Joelle, you have the report?
I do.
Okay.
I am going to skip over some of the duplicated
Yeah.
areas if you all don't mind.
So it's fine with us,
Okay.
especially on a cold night in
All right.
January.
Perfect. kind of lost my voice on the last one. So,
That'd be great.
okay, thank you. This is special use 2317, and it's for 411 Court Street. Again, the applicants are Allison and Matthew Russo, and the proposal is to locate a short-term vacation rental in an existing duplex. Per section 1738-180, special uses are allowed in the Butte-Silver Bow Municipal Code. The applicants are requesting to rent out both units in this duplex through online hosting program. Each unit consists of 2 bedrooms and 1 bath. Here's an aerial photograph. As you can see, it's here on the corner of Quartz and North Jackson. This again is in the R2 zoning district, which is a 2-family residence. Just to the south of it is R3, which is multifamily home, and over here to the southeast is a C3 commercial zone. The property is located within the Uptown Edge place type in the comprehensive plan. The Uptown Edge place type serves as a transitional area immediately surrounding the Uptown core, and it is intended for a mix of commercial-centric development interspersed with multifamily residential, but at a scale less dense than in the core itself. A couple views. This view is looking to the east, and here's one to the north. Both on-street parking on Court Street here and along Jackson Street. This would be looking south, and this one is looking to the west. Again, I'm going to skip over the staff findings. Those are the same in each special use. The location and character of the property and surrounding buildings. This property is a 3,000 square foot lot in an R2 residential zone. The surrounding character is single and 2-family residence with lots measuring 2,500 to 4,000 square feet. There is no lighting, screening, or fencing proposed for this property. It is lit in a fashion that would be suitable for this type of neighborhood. Again, some closer photos. This would be Unit A here off of Court Street. Unit B is, as you can see, they have it labeled off of North Jackson Street. And here is the rear area of the home by the alley. There have been no significant land changes in this immediate area since the zoning ordinance in 1978. Staff does not foresee this proposed use as having any impact on drainage, stormwater runoff of the site, as no additional impervious area is being planned. Again, vehicular circulation, there is access to and from the property from both North Jackson and Court Street. Handicap accessibility may be a concern as there is a curb to access the sidewalks on both the front and side entrances, as well as steps to enter both units to the duplex. And we just listed that we think the applicant should again address that in their listings. Regarding lighting, again, the existing lighting is typical of this residential neighborhood, and the applicants have stated that there will be no changes to the current lighting on the property. Potential nuisances, traffic, the proposed occupancy is consistent with the size of a typical family, and we expect no impact. Parking is adequate on both North and Court Street. Again, if the applicant can clearly address the properties to prevent any unintentional access to the neighborhood and potential for noise. Public health and safety, the applicant will be required to meet all Butte-Silver Bow Department regulations related to providing rooms for rent, and the applicants will be required to adhere to the regulations regarding the occupancy level of the building as determined by Butte-Silver Bow Building and Fire Marshal. There are public utilities and potable water that serve this particular property. There appears to be no compelling reasons why the property could not continue to be utilized for residential purposes. The established character of the existing residential neighborhood would not appear to be impacted by this proposal. There would be no change to the aesthetics of the surrounding properties nor to the surrounding landscape should this proposal be approved. The place type again is the uptown edge. This place type serves as a transitional area immediately surrounding the uptown core and is intended to support a mix of commercial-centric development interspersed with multifamily residential, but a less dense scale than in the core itself. Occupancy of an existing duplex conforms to the intent of the comprehensive plan and the ordinance, and the proposed use would not substantially impede the conservation of resources and energy within Butte-Silver Bow. The applicant's property does not conform with the setbacks and lot size of the lot coverage requirements of the R2 zone. The building is considered legal non-conforming structure, and expansion of the building footprint shall be required to meet the development standards of the zone. In any time a commercial business encroaches into a residential neighborhood, there is a potential for the use to adversely impact the surrounding property owners. In this case, when considering the low-impact commercial nature of the business and the owners limiting the number of occupants, staff believes that it would have a minimal impact on adjacent properties and property owners. There is no known neighborhood plan for this area of Butte-Silver Bow. Although the use of this home is proposed to change, the exterior of the building will remain unaltered. Therefore, the house will remain compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. Again, the list of conditions is the same as the last Airbnb. And in conclusion, same conclusions. The zoning board has the power to either deny or approve in writing, and the zoning officer can issue a compliance letter if it's approved. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Joella. Do any board members have any questions of the staff with regard to this matter? Okay, sir, you can again say what you want to say.
I'll say the same things once again. I
Okay.
suppose. But thank you all, and that's, again, that's fantastic.
All right. Any board members have any questions of the applicant? None? Okay. Do we feel comfortable in deciding this application tonight? Okay. So, is anybody present that would care to speak in support of this application? I'm not hearing anybody. Is there anybody present that would care to speak against this application? And again, I'm not hearing anybody. So open it up for board discussion.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think same thing on this one. I think it's a well put together application. I don't have any hesitations or concerns, so would be ready to make a motion tonight.
Any other thoughts or, yeah, that would be great, Garrett, if you could make a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve special use application 23-000017 with the conditions of approval outlined.
Mr. Chairman, I second.
It's been moved and seconded, and we can now vote. All 5 votes are for the motion, so your application has again been approved, and you'll be receiving a letter from the planning staff to that effect. And good luck with your project, sir.
Thank you so much, Chairman. We'll appreciate that very much.
You too. Go take care, okay. The final application that we have before us, tonight is special use application 2319, which has been before us before. And it's a special application by Krista Kruger Ellingwood and Brian Ellingwood, and I believe also Derek Kruger with regard to this matter. Derek Kruger was before us the last time. Now he's turned over matters to his mother. Kim Kruger is in the audience representing her children. So, Joella, you can come up and do it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Special Use 2319, and it's amendment to Special Use 23-6. This amendment, 23-6, was approved back in May of 2023. It's for 1019 West Silver. This home was converted from a 5-bedroom home into a duplex back in May. The applicants were asking that the bottom unit be utilized as a short-term rental, and the upper unit was at that point going to be utilized as long-term. They've since asked to do the upper unit also as a short-term rental. The applicants are Krista Kruger Ellingwood and Brian Ellingwood of Mill Creek, Utah. And again, I'm going to skip over some of the duplicated information. But again, the applicant is requesting approval to convert the upper level of a 2-story duplex from long-term rental to short-term rental. And the lower is currently approved from Special Use 23-6. Here's an aerial view of the property on West Silver, and Emmett is just to the east. The zoning district is in an R2 or 2-family residence. Again, this resides in the uptown neighborhood place type, a traditional urban neighborhood with predominance of single-family attached and detached residential. The uptown neighborhoods are located within the Butte Historic District. The location and character of the building, the property is in an R2 zone, and it's surrounded by 1- and 2-family homes. This is a view looking to the east, and here's looking to the west. Again, some of the potential nuisances: parking. There are some off-street parking places with access via Silver Street at the front of the residence. There's adequate room for 2 parking spaces with some additional parking in the rear via the alley access. If the applicants are limited to occupancy levels dictated by the size of the rental, there should be any more of a parking issue than if the house were inhabited long-term. This house was previously converted from a 5-bedroom single-family home to a duplex with a total of, and I'm going to correct this, the applicant did inform me that there's 4 bedrooms. One is being utilized as an office, not as a bedroom, but
Okay.
just, again, noise. Renters may be less concerned about creating excessive noise within the neighborhood. While the owners will not be residing in the residence at the time, they should enforce rules through the online hosting program. And again, wayfinding, the upper level entrance is in the rear. So we just want to make sure that there is adequate signage notating the second level can be entered through the rear of the residence. And there's also a sidewalk that adjoins the back entrance from the front. Conditions of approval, again, these are going to be the same as they were in the other special use for Airbnb. And conclusion, the Zoning Board of Adjustments has the power to either deny or approve the application.
Okay,
Thank
thank you, Joella. Any board members have any questions of the staff with regard to this matter? Not hearing anybody, then the applicant, spokesman for the applicant, can now provide any additional information that you might have?
No, I think she outlined it very well.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody present that would care to speak in support of this application? Is there anybody present that would care to speak against the application? Hearing nobody, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and open it for board discussion. And again, I would suggest that this is a matter that we can decide tonight instead of waiting up to 60 days. Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think consistent with all the others, I don't have any concerns with approval of this special use permit either.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Does anybody care to make a motion with regard to this application?
I can make a motion that we approve special use permit 23-19 with the conditions of approval.
I'll second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the application, and we can now vote. Thank you. Thanks. All 5 votes are for the motion, so the application has been approved, and somebody will be receiving a letter to that effect from the planning staff. So thank you for your attendance tonight. Is there any further business for the board? Okay, the meeting is hereby adjourned.